Welcome back to Paranormal. The New Normal presents Paranormal Primetime, folks. Your usual Sunday night hang where we get, a little supernatural. But I'm Jeremy, and as always, my co-host Malachi. Spelled correctly, of course.
How's everybody doing? Anybody
Uh,
who's watching on Super Bowl Sunday?
we actually got three right away. So yeah, but not
Okay.
bad. I'll take it. And I guess the halftime show just ended, so fuck yeah. But well, folks, we're back once again to talk one of our favorite shows, and this week we've episode 7 and 8, which we have comments. We have comments, but well, let's episode 7. We'll say we get another fun urban legend that we get to talk about here. So, Scott, you want to do the first episode synopsis? Oh,
Sure, and this one actually, this was the first urban legend I had ever heard at like a sleepover before. So that was pretty cool. A little different than the way I heard it at the sleepover. But essentially, it starts off you got a guy and a girl making out under a bridge. And I would love to see one of those old wooden bridges in real life. And then I know we're doing synopsis, but another cool thing I noticed is he's driving around in a 92 Jeep Cherokee. I've owned two of those in my life. That was my first car. But essentially, right, so we got spoilers, anybody who hasn't seen it. You got the two kids making out, and there's noises. The girl goes outside, or the guy goes outside. He disappears. Next thing you know, he's hanging gutted above the car suspended from the bridge. Cut to Sam and Dean looking through the newspaper again. They see the case. They drive over there. The thing I immediately thought, they go to a church where the girl's father is the preacher. And everybody's wearing like green shit, but they're Protestant. They're not Irish Catholic. But you see this weird cross right on the pedestal. And I thought that had something to do with it at first. Cut to, she's in a sorority. She's fighting with her dad. Gets dropped back off there. Her roommate was sleeping when she got there. She wakes up in the morning and her roommate's gutted. And on the wall was written, where are we going
aren't
here?
aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light? The
Aren't you
classic
glad you
line.
didn't turn? Yeah, yeah. And my wife was wondering, is that a different? They say it's from the same urban legend, but is that a different
If
urban legend?
if you remember when we did the urban legend bracket way back when, there's an urban legend called the licking dog legend, or it's either called the licking dog or the man underneath the bed, and
Okay,
it's basically the urban legend where a girl has her hand hanging off her bed and she feels something licking it and she thinks it's her dog, and then in the morning she finds her dog dead, and in the dog's blood in the wall is written, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights?"
okay, yeah. I'll tell my wife because she thought there was a different urban legend for that. But then, cut to the police are there. Sam and Dean, they break into the sorority house, which is pretty freaking. I mean, that's pretty ballsy, right? Double murder, and they're breaking in. Um, and then they think that it's the preacher, the dad who's the preacher, and then the dad gets attacked. So they find out that it's like connected to her somehow. Dean goes and he burns the bones, which that was a first, right? That's the first we've had
Yes.
so far. He,
First time they burn the bones in the show so far.
I've got three firsts, but that one was a first.
I got
The
two more
ghost
too.
is
Yep.
still there, right? While Dean's burning the bones, Sam and the
The
girl and
girl.
her father are getting attacked by the hook man. Then
Well, no,
they
no,
realize.
not the father. The father's in the hospital already at that point.
I thought the father was getting attacked while
No,
Dean was burning the bones.
no. Dean's burning the bone. Oh,
Yeah, because
you're
then they
right.
roll
You're
up
right.
to the hospital.
You're right. You're right. You're right. I'm jumping ahead of scene.
So then they figure, well, did we burn the hook? Was the hook there? And hook wasn't there. So now they're looking for this hook. They find out the penitentiary gave it to the church that the dad is the preacher of. So then they're running through trying to burn all the silver. They think they burn all the silver, but the ghost is still attacking Sam and the girl. And that's when they find the necklace on the girl, where it come from. It's a church heirloom. They burn that. Case solved.
Yeah, basically it's a it's a interesting look at the Hookman legend. They to throw in a couple, like as we said, they throw in a couple facts that are synonymous with a lot of urban legends, but it's it was a decent episode. It was decent. I mean, they did it well. The whole beginning scene was really done well. I thought it was like a
Mm-hmm.
classic horror movie scene, and the fact that you actually see like this. I like the way they did it, where like it's invisible until like it wants to be seen. So you just see the
Yeah.
sign getting slashed in half, and you just see like all the slashes and different things around the car, and all these urban legends that were made up just to keep kids from necking. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. But
I think, if they would have added 40 more minutes to this, it might have been a good B movie. But, I mean, it wasn't. It seems like they're kind of slacking here on the back half of this season.
yeah, oh, we're not even in the back. We're not even in the back half yet. That's the funny part.
Oh,
But
yeah, it's like 30,
20 episodes,
30
22,
episodes. Okay.
20, 22. It's they're most of them are typical seasons. But I will say the first freaking note I had is her college roommate, the African American chick, is smoking hot. And when she's leaving and her roommate says to her, "Don't do anything I wouldn't do," and she turns around, she's like, "But there's nothing you wouldn't do," and she's like, "Yeah, you're right." I'm like, yes, come to daddy. Like fuck. This show. I mean, CW shows alone, always the hottest chicks, always the hottest chicks.
Have you
But
noticed everybody in the CW, like across shows, look like they could be in the same TV show too? They're always
mhm,
dressed in some weird Abercrombie and Finch with the same exact haircuts. It's like,
they were reaching out to a class of teenagers, and they nailed that. They reached until they started doing superhero shows. They were reaching out to basically all the preppy, popular kids and making them relatable to them. So
and I mean, you could tell a CW show just by the way people are dressed, I think, especially back then.
yeah, and especially in the 2000s, 100%. But I will say, I love that they went with the Reverend's daughter stereotype for the episode. I love they did that. It's a classic stereotype for a lot of freaking different urban legends and paranormal history. It's the Reverend's daughter. It's always, I think it's in some folklore and fairy tales too. It's like a Reverend's daughter always. It's just,
Well, and then they got the switcheroo, right? Because you like
mm,
think it's the Reverend who's overprotective of the daughter, and then I didn't think that whole lore of the thing like locking on to the girl made sense because like every church had it. The first preacher, he went out and killed 13 prostitutes on 9 Mile Road. Then it changed, and there was 1932, there was a clergyman arrested for murder. 1967, somebody went on a hippie killing rampage, and they're always preaching against morality. But I didn't get how the ghost just attached itself to this girl. But I guess she was wearing the necklace, so.
yeah. It probably was passed down from priest to priest. Like the silver, it was probably left in the freaking church and it was passed down. So it probably just kept attaching to that over and over again. I will
Yeah.
say I like the backstory for the Hookman in this one though. Like the whole like cowboy preacher thing is like fucking badass as shit. And I mean, yeah, he may have been a serial killer in his real life, but it's still bad as shit. And I love a good Western backstory to any villain. So had to give props for that. And they started off. This is one of the first. Well, this one I didn't really think of this as the first till I just was looking at it now, but it was the first like real pop culture reference because when they're doing research in the library and like Dean figures something out and Sam's like, "Good job, Doctor Venkman."
Okay. Yeah, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, they threw a Ghostbusters reference in this one since it was like really the first Ghost episode. I guess I wouldn't count the other one we already did as really a Ghost episode per se. But or yeah, the lake one wasn't really a ghost one. That was more of a haunting, I'd say.
Eh, yeah. What did you get any other firsts?
First use of salt, motherfucker. Yes.
Yeah, I got that one. Yeah, first use of salt, and it just slows them down.
And also the
Uh,
first time they ever bring up silver, and it's
okay.
important.
Well, I think this
That
was also the first time they talked about smelling ozone when a
yep.
ghost is near, but I don't think they ever talk about it again, do they?
No, I mean they do sometimes. I think they do for like the first couple seasons, and they kind of drop it once it gets to the good seasons. They kind of drop it. Like they kind of move on and don't mention it again because they figure everybody already knows. That's my assumption. But
And and then the first time they actually show them salting and burning the bones too.
well, yeah, I didn't write that down even, but yeah, that's true. It's the first time they do that, and if that becomes a normal thing, so much that the fans of them and their books know it as a thing. So I mean, it becomes a huge part of the show. I think one of my friends even had a shirt at one time that said salt 'em and burn 'em. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean it became a thing. And the only other note I mean, well, it was kind of I didn't have to know, but it was kind of cool to see Dean finally get. I mean, Sam finally get some chick. See him finally get some fucking
Okay.
action until the fucking creature shows up. Which that's my final note is that the final battle scene was fucking cool as shit. Like the way they're throwing the gun back and forth and shit, and like ducking, dodging, and just the way they were fighting the ghost at the end was really fucking. I love that the whole action sequences. I thought was amazing.
I thought it was weird that the girl was just okay with Sam spying on her. Some guy like there's murders happening all over the place, and she's just like,
I
"Oh,
think it I
cool."
think it I think it ties into the preacher's daughter type thing because I think it's like supposed to be like, oh, this innocent girl wants a little danger in her life, so she doesn't mind some guy just watching her. Like,
The biggest fuck up I think this show had this episode was the fact that technically the hook was already burnt, right? It was melted into
well,
the cross.
it wasn't destroyed. It was just melted and reshaped.
But
It was not
it's not
destroyed.
destroyed in that it's not destroyed in that fireplace either. You'll just have a blob of silver on the bottom. I
But
thought that was a little screw up.
well, it was destroyed because that was not a fireplace. That was a furnace. And furnaces burn so hot, it will fucking destroy silver. Like, it'll melt it down and literally like, make it into steam.
I think that was kind of a mess up, an oversight,
Uh,
in my opinion.
it worked. And if it works, it works. So what can I say? It works. So, I mean, I don't know. It was a decent episode. If I had to rank it out of 5 stars, I'd give it a 3.5. It was enjoyable enough to watch again. I can't say I'd
I
want to watch it every fucking week, but
I'm giving it a 2.5. And
ooh,
another thing they need is Sam and Dean are sitting there with that old fucking
shotgun,
cock
yeah.
him up shotgun. They need a Kalashnikov with a drum mag. I
They
think it's
they
about
get
time.
they get better shit in the future. This is just back before they really had resources. It's
Yeah.
just whatever's in the trunk of the car. But I mean, I didn't, and it was pretty funny to see them like trying to be college kids again, and Dean actually gets all jealous and he's like, "Why didn't you tell me college was like this?"
Yeah. And Sam says, well, that wasn't my college experience. Of course not,
Mm-hmm.
nerd.
Nope, he was a nerd. Which you can be a nerd, Sam, and have a good time in college. Trust me on that. But nerds have no problem drinking. You just gotta choose to. But
Well, I mean, he was drinking with his girlfriend in episode 1. He was out with his friends.
yeah, when they asked when the one guy came over and was like, "Anybody want more drinks?" He was like, "No," and everybody else was like, "Yes." Like he's one of those nerds who has one drink and it's done. He's a one drink wuss. Like, fuck it.
Yeah, later on in the show, you'll find out he's more of an angry drunk.
Oh yeah. Well, he's got anger issues to begin with. We all know this. But which that's actually a good segue because they kind of come up in the next episode in a slight way. Well, the anger issues come up to a certain degree. But how
Oh,
the
before we leave the last episode, I didn't really think that tied into the storyline at all. That was just
oh god
a
no
sole
no
one-off. That was a one-off, 100.
monster of the week. It was a monster of the
Yeah.
week, and they were big in the early seasons doing urban legends for monsters of the week. I mean, eventually they ran out of urban legends they could do, but it is what it is. But
I think this one ties in a little bit more, but the last one, other than Sam going to college, that was pretty much the only thing in the.
no, it didn't. I mean, and once again they didn't look at John's book at all.
Nope.
So it almost makes you think they lost it or something. But
Yeah.
and they do. I mean, and Dean does get arrested in this one again, doesn't he? Or is it Sam that gets arrested?
In the last one.
In the Hook one, in the Hookman one of them gets arrested because the sheriff starts to question why they all of a sudden came to town. Everybody starts dying.
I remember him getting questioned. Did he get arrested?
They
I
broke
just watched
into.
this like an hour and a half ago.
I'm pretty sure they broke into somewhere and one of them got arrested, but the sheriff couldn't hold them because somebody got killed while he was locked. Dean got arrested because
When they were walking in the woods, with the shotgun, the cop came out and said, "Put your hands down."
Yeah, and I love it because Dean comes out and he's like, I convinced him we were hazing you for being in the fraternity. He's like, yeah, we told him you were dumb enough to believe the legends, and that you believe that salt. Oh, I mean, salt bullets. That's the other person. That's one of salt bullets. But
yeah.
I mean, they haven't got. I'm still waiting for the first time we hear "get the salt." But
yeah, so they had the salt bullets, which just slow them down. The first ozone and the first grave digging, and then you had the first pop culture reference. So four firsts in that one,
and the first importance of sober.
Mm-hmm. So five
first. It was a big episode for first. That's why I ranked it at 3.5 because it had a lot of firsts in it. That's I mean and the African American chick in college in the beginning that ranked up a little bit too. Too bad she got slaughtered, but the hot ones always do. But I think it's time to move on to the next episode, folks. Which this honestly might be a short one because it wasn't that great an episode to begin with. It was a little too similar to a certain X-Files episode I remember as well. But the next episode is called Bugs, and the basic synopsis of it is a worker at a housing development construction site falls into a hole in the ground and is killed by what seems like bugs. Or I mean, the town calls it mad cow disease, but gotta love that. And so Sam and Dean come across this in the paper as well, I believe. Or was Sam actually on a laptop in this one when he found the story?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Sam might actually been on the laptop for the first time in this one. Like he found the story in the news.
No, they find the story when they're at the bar because this is the first time we find out. Like we see them hustling pool.
Oh yeah, because Sam's out sitting on the front of the car and Dean's inside hustling pool. Yeah, and so basically they head to the town and try to figure out what's going on. They pretend they want to buy a house so they can get inside the house and meet the people of the town. And long story short, there's a lot of little notes here, but I'll get into that later. One of the people they meet ends up passing away that night from a very scene I have notes on that scene, but I will say that the owner of the housing development has a son that Sam kind of bonds with, which that's where it kind of ties into the storyline, and we'll get back to that in a little bit. And basically, the son's really into bugs, And so he's been noticing all these different things going on with the bugs in the area and why they're not acting right. And after they get a chance to look around enough, after being harassed by the cops and the owner of the development, they tend to they find in a hole a bunch of skulls. And just like I knew it was going to be, they predicted it was a Native American burial ground in a very poltergeist ripoff almost. They moved the graves, but not the bodies. But yeah, I mean, it's basically a Native American burial ground, and it's another example of they basically have to survive through the night of a bug attack because it has to deal with the moon and the sun being in certain alignment in order to make these attacks keep happening. Because the Native Americans who got slaughtered cursed the land, as they'll do. Ask anybody in the Bridgewater Triangle, and after they survive the night, they basically everybody moves out of the freaking area. So basically, they don't solve the problem. People are just like,
No.
okay, we understand we fucked up, we're leaving. So
Yeah.
I mean, they don't solve the problem really. I'm surprised there wasn't a return to it in a later episode, but it's what are they going to do? Dig up the whole town to find every Native American bone and salt and burn them?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? I don't know what you would do.
I
I mean, I don't know. What was your first real note in this one? Because I don't got many. It was not that great an
my
episode.
first real note is that it opens up with a guy saying, "Man, these houses are fat," and I just thought that was the dope sickest phrase I've heard from the late 2000s. I think that fat was already out of the slang by that time.
If it wasn't out, it was on its way out the door.
Yeah, that sort of dated it. And then what?
Yeah.
Did you get any firsts off of this?
Yes, I got one first, but I don't want to bring that up just yet because I want to wait till we get to that part. But
Okay,
I will
I got
say
one too.
I did make a note about how I love how the town blames it on mad cow disease because like that was such a big thing in the early 2000s. Was I remember seeing it as a kid in the paper everywhere, like, oh, mad cow disease strikes again.
Hmm.
Like, and now it's like a thing you barely hear about. It
I
still
thought
happens, but
I thought it was weird with the Dean finding the 10 beetles when he goes down in the hole to check. And like
uh,
I'm with Dean on this one. Like Sam trying to, well, it's the bugs that are killing people. I thought there was just a lot of lazy writing in this one.
I mean, it definitely wasn't the most well written episode. I'll tell you that much. And it wasn't. I don't, it just wasn't that. It wasn't that entertaining an episode. I more
No,
wanted to be. I more wanted to be over than anything at this point. At the point of like 20 minutes into this, I think I fell asleep at one point. I had to rewind a little bit. Like it was just not a. It wasn't a great done episode. It really wasn't.
well, and then
But
like so they're driving around trying to find out, right? And Dean says, "Let's go talk to the locals." So they stop in at a open house because there's free barbecue. And at that
oh yeah,
point, I thought it was going to be more of like a cult episode because everybody had these like
no,
really culty vibes.
they never. I don't know if they ever did a cult episode on this show. Even I really don't know if they did.
Yeah,
Maybe in the Lucifer season, a couple episodes would be counted as that, but other than that, no.
I thought it was going. I mean, it was yeah. Once you found out it was bugs, but I mean, I'm to the point of my first where they're at the open house.
Yep.
Do you
First,
say the first?
first time being mistaken as a gay couple instead of brothers.
Yep. Which they will later have erotic gay fiction written about them in the show we'll get to later. That was my
Oh,
only
yeah.
first too. Oh,
Yeah, it's,
besides the listening to the police scanners, I don't know if that was a first minor one if it was, but
no,
they
because
find out somebody was killed.
in the first episode, they have a police scanner in the hotel room when they're fucking in the
Okay.
hotel room. They have a police scanner going. That's been a thing since the first episode.
Okay.
But And then, I mean, the note I have after that is about the next murder,
Okay.
which the spiders in that scene look fake as fuck.
They look CG as hell when they're coming out of the shower, but then even when Sam or Dean lifts up the towel after
It
they
looks like a
break
fucking
in,
toy.
it
It looks
looks
like a
like
toy.
plastic spiders. Yeah.
I mean, it's like literally, I'm like, okay, this is the time of snakes on a plane, and they've done all these like eight-legged freaks, arachnophobia. They've done all these spider movies. Why can't you make better CGI spiders that look realistic? Like, come on, it's been done in the '90s. You could do it in the 2000s. They
Well, and
obviously just
they've done good until this point too. Like this was
if
the first crappy
maybe they,
CGI.
maybe there was rumors going around they were getting canceled or something at this point, and they might have just like phoned it in for this one.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just all around one of the worst episodes so far. But
And I
like
mean,
connecting into the storyline, the kid's dad from the open house, the developer is yelling at his son, and Sam and Dean are going back and forth because Sam used to get yelled at by the dad, where Dean was the star child, and that's how the kid and Sam bond.
yeah, I mean it goes into the storyline a little with like Sam's relationship with his father, and it basically gets into the whole Dean doesn't even see it because he has like there's a real name for this, but I forget what it is. But he looks at his father as like a god of sorts, and he doesn't see him doing any wrong. He even says at one point when Sam says like, "Oh, I got yelled at all the time," Dean's like, "Cause you didn't listen." Which I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, maybe the same reason I tell my kids to get yelled at because they don't listen. But I mean, I mean, a brother should be able to like if he didn't have that syndrome where he believes his father is basically a godlike, then he wouldn't think that way. He would have been like, well, yeah, you did have it a little bit harder. Like, but he
yeah.
he can't he can't fault his father for anything at this point yet. Eventually that changes, but
And I mean that runs in the rest of this episode. Like Sam's trying to convince the kid to leave, and Dean, why would you ever leave your family? But
I will say that Dean has balls because when they find that hole in the woods with the worms where they find the first skulls,
hmm
like I would never reach my hand into a pile of worms to get something out of the ground. I am so fucking good on that. Like that
yeah,
was a shitload. That was a shitload of worms. Like, and yeah, I've gotten worms out of the ground for fishing when I was a kid and shit. But
yeah. I was
that's
gonna say I fought some
that's
night
one
crawlers.
that's one worm. That's not a fucking army of worms. But
Well, I'm not
it's
afraid of worms.
I'm not. I ain't afraid of them. At this point, it's just gross to me. I won't touch it. But
I just
like
thought
my
that was lazy writing too. When like the kid's like, "Hey, let me show you something. I'm not the murderer," and then they walk and all the bugs are in this one circle, and they're like, "What's that hump in the ground?" And then
I mean,
he knocks the worms down and finds a skull.
yeah, I mean and at that point, it's where I knew right away what was going on. I already had
Oh
suspects
yeah,
of it because anything nature based is usually going to be a Native American curse. But
yeah,
it's also it's when I got the really poltergeisty vibes for the whole episode. Like I'm like, this is like poltergeist. It really is.
yeah.
But
Except
and I mean
without cool of a storyline.
and I mean I did the one scene that saved this episode slightly is when they go talk to the Native American elder and he tells them the tale of what happened. And I
hmm
love that in any horror movie, in any horror TV show, I love when they have a Native American telling a story. Even I said I recently watched the Twilight series for a bracket coming up on my show, and I did enjoy the fucking Native American lore in those movies that movie series a lot. So anything can be saved a little by Native American lore, in my opinion, because they do their fucking lore right. So I did that was the one saving grace was the old man telling the story. That's the one thing this episode a little bit of grace, but
And I
and
mean
then
he basically says that the cavalry came down and they murdered and raped the people for 6 days, and then on the sixth night the chief looked up into the air and did a prayer, and if any white people came to this land at the exact same time, they would die from bugs.
Well, nature would take its course,
Nature. Yeah.
and I mean, the final scene in this one was so stupid. I mean, getting chased through a house by bugs, like it was just so underwhelming. It was so underwhelming. I was just like, oh my god, is this over yet? The only thing that was cool, the childhood pyromaniac in me loved the idea of bug spray and fire together. So
Yeah, it's just like that was more lazy writing because everyone else we had seen till this point died within seconds. Those bugs were on them for 30 seconds and they were dead. I mean, they're stuck in a house for minutes that we get to see, and it eventually till the sun comes up. And they started at 11 p.m. So
and
you're looking
just
at least 6 hours of dealing with bugs, and they survive.
exactly, and I mean, it was just underwhelming. It was underwhelming, and the end of the episode when the owner of the properties is moving out, it just is like, yeah, there's no problem solved. We're just moving out before this happens again.
We won't let anybody live here.
Yep. I mean, I guarantee 20 years later by now they probably built a whole fucking
Oh yeah.
suburbs on that. But yeah, maybe if they ever bring back Supernatural like they keep teasing they're going to, and maybe they'll
Oh,
do.
my wife found something we started watching. Have you watched the Winchesters?
Oh, the prequel series.
Yeah.
It got canceled.
Oh, it did. I know she just started. We're on like episode 4.
It got canceled after season 1.
Okay, that was
I'm
like
pretty sure.
during COVID, right?
No, that was last year.
Hmm. Okay.
Actually, okay. Did it get canceled? Or am I wrong about? Oh, yeah, that was 2022. So it definitely got canceled because it would definitely. I believe it got. Yeah, it was canceled after one season. They literally there are 13 episodes. It got
Okay.
canceled after
I still
13
got
episodes.
7 more.
Yeah, no,
6 more.
it got canceled. I heard about it, and then by the time I looked into it to even start watching it, it got canceled before I even get into it. It's on Max. I probably will watch like all 13 episodes at some point just to say I've seen it, but it's I'm probably gonna be more
Not as
pissed off than
good.
anything. I'm
Yeah, it's
sure.
not
I'm
as
sure.
good.
But I'm probably gonna be more pissed off than anything that I know it's already canceled. That's gonna make me not want to watch it because I'm just like, what's the point?
Yeah.
But I did just hear that Jared Padalecki is gonna be on The Boys season 5, so the Winchesters will be together again on The Boys.
On the boys. That's what is that?
That's the Amazon Prime superhero show. That's like rated R.
Oh, so he's not going to be Sam Winchester. The Dean
No, no,
Winchester.
no.
Okay.
Jensen Ackles has been on as a couple seasons as a superhero named Soldier Boy, who's basically like a Captain America ripoff.
Okay.
But
Yeah, he
he's
narrates the Winchesters. I guess
yeah.
Sam's done, huh?
I don't know. They keep talking about like doing the same thing they did for X-Files, where they bring it back for like a couple seasons.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well, I
The
still got to
way
watch the end, so.
well, yeah, I was gonna say the way it ended, I don't see them bringing it back. But I
No.
mean, they could, but it'd be kind of hard to bring. They'd have to think about a way to bring Jensen Ackles on it. I'm just saying that. But it's
What'd you rate this one?
God, 1.5 out of 5, and it's only getting the 1.5 because of the old Native American.
Yeah, I only gave it a 1. I might give it lower than that. I might give it a 0.5 if we got to rate them all.
Native American lore, and there's a lot of them that I can't rate lower than 3, for God's sake. But especially in later seasons. But this one was just a waste of 40 minutes of my life. That I watched it once already in my life, and I had to watch it again. And it was just, no, no.
And I think you're
But
right. There might have been something where they didn't know the show was going on anymore, and they didn't hire as many actors or writers, and didn't have the budget. I don't know. Something went on. This was definitely just a filler episode, not even a monster of the week.
Yeah, I mean, it was a monster of the week. That's really what it was, but it wasn't really a monster. It was just a curse.
Yeah, it wasn't even very paranormally. I guess the curse is, but yeah, I was not a fan of this episode.
I wasn't either, but I saw a title for the next episode. I don't remember what it was, but I think it's going to be a very much better episode than this one. I think, if I remember right, but we'll see. We'll see. Well, it is what it
And
is.
both of these episodes, they still end on a different song every episode, so we're still going with that.
Yeah, for now. They didn't bring in the theme song yet.
Yeah.
I don't think they do until the end of season 1, but I could be wrong.
Probably.
Or maybe it was the mid-season break in season 1. I'm not sure, but we'll find out soon enough, folks. As we're getting close to the mid-season break, I'll say that much. We're getting close to it. But come back next week to hear episodes 9 and 10 and see what we think about those and if they were any better than episodes 7 and 8 were. But
hopefully they were.
have a good night, everybody.
Take it easy.